Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over our tier list as we approach Milwaukee Regionals. Whether you're attending that event or not, this is kind of where the metagame currently is. So these decks are going to be positioned well against each other or not. Maybe some things have moved, maybe they haven't, but I'll give you my opinions. If that sounds great, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and let me know what you think about it in the comments. I've added like 4 or 5 new decks here based off some suggestions from previous videos. So if I'm missing any of the decks that have done well at our regionals recently, let me know. It's easy to forget them when there's a bunch of playable decks in this format. I'm going to be ranking the decks between the best decks, really good decks, kind of good decks, the mid decks, kind of bad decks, and really bad decks. If your deck falls in the best decks, good for you. That's awesome. If your deck falls in the really bad decks, I'm sorry. I like bad decks too. It's one of those things where decks change all the time, so don't necessarily use this as an opinion to buy cards or play a deck for a long time. The metagame is always evolving. Figured I'd let y'all know that. And let's kind of kick things off. I just kind of like choosing decks as they are. Now, a deck like Milwaukee, we're gonna start with this. It did really well in the early Japanese Champions League stuff. I'm trying to think if it's moved up where it's like well positioned. Like if we think about like recent things, I don't think it's good against Gardevoir, which has now won 4 major events in a row, because Gardevoir has ways around Cornerstone, has ways around Mimikyu, has ways around Milotic, around Frigoraph. So I'm gonna put this deck as mid. I think it's definitely fallen down a little bit. Decks that I think are not great right now, Ancient Box, probably like it would be like mid and hovering around mid. I don't think it has enough like power to it. So I think Ancient Box kind of falls into the really bad category. It doesn't have a whole lot of like power level to it. A lot of Pokemon have a lot of HP. Like it's okay if you run into only Gardevoir, but even then they'll unfair stamp you, and that's the biggest issue with the deck. I think Azumarill's the definition of kind of a bad deck. Like every bad deck can have its day, and I think some of these decks could do well at a League Challenge or a League Cup, but we're not going to see a Azumarill like pop off and win likely one of these like regionals or anything else like that. Blaziken Munkidori to me is it bad that I want to put it at kind of good, but I think I'm going to put it at mid right now. It doesn't really have the power level of what I'm looking for, but like it has potential, and I think it's going to actually unlock when Destined Rivals we get that new Blaziken card. I'm excited to cook with this one. Chen Pao falling off a little bit. I mean, it fell off huge. I think we run into a Bidoof format. We're playing I just don't think it's good. I think it's bad right now. It's worse than a Azumarill in my opinion. So we'll give it that right now. Ceruledge, I think Ceruledge ends up being kind of bad. Not really well positioned in our current metagame. I don't think it's as strong as Goldango. I don't think it has as much power as other decks on this list, so I'm going to put it kind of bad. I'm not going to go into every single deck in detail. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. And I should note, if you're looking for any of the cards for these decks, check out our sponsors at Kayfabe Cards, at PTCGL Store, and of course, if you need sleeves or anything else like that, check out Ultimate Guard. Straight Dango, I think, is really good. I think it's just a really good deck in our format. I don't think it's the best, but it's one of the really good decks in our format. Same thing with Dango to Dunsparce, and same thing with Dango Dragapult. I think those might be all the Dango lists that we have on this list. I think I might have taken off Dango Scizor somewhere. But the Dango lists seem really good in this format. Blissey just came second at Monterey. I think it's kind of good. Probably falls back into the mid-tier category, but it's only really good because Dragapult's seeing a lot of success, so that's kind of where it's at. Gardevoir, I think, is one of the best decks. It's won 4 majors. It still might be countered, but Gardevoir just doesn't die. Gardevoir's been popping off, and I like that I'm kind of going with this brick wall strategy. I'm just kind of going with it, and sometimes I click and it just rolls with it. Conkeldurr, kind of the same thing as Chen Pao and Ancient Box. I think this deck's just not really cutting it right now. I'd rather be playing Slowking, which I think is kind of a bad deck, if I want to be copying things like Conkeldurr. Similar to Blaziken, I think Copperajah, Munkidori, these Munkidori decks are kind of good. I'd actually put maybe Copperajah a step above. It's probably kind of good there. Not as mid as Blaziken, but I think Copperajah might be a little bit better. Straight Dragapult, where do I put that? I think Straight Dragapult is going to be one of the best decks. I think it's absolutely fantastic, has a amazing matchup spread. And I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to put Dragapult Dusknoir up there as well. I think like Dragapult decks really run the format and Gardevoir really runs the format. That's really the plateau at the top. Pidgeot Control, I think, kind of falls into a mid category, just not enough stuff to really save it from this format. Mamoswine is kind of bad. Yeah, it struggles a bit. It's a little too slow for this format. We have Big Moon. I think Big Moon is kind of mid deck. I think that seems fair. That's like a traditional Roaring Moon or a Poison Roaring Moon kind of deck. It's like all right. We have Straight Miraidon with Pikachu. I think Straight Miraidon probably falls into the mid deck category. But if we're talking about the Joltik box that's been popping off, I think the Joltik box is doing really good right now. So I think it's a really good deck. Palafin, I think, is kind of bad. I don't know. It's like all right. Maybe I'm going to put Miraidon over here too. I think the Joltik deck's a little bit better. And I'm going to just drop the Miraidon. I'm probably going to drop the Roaring Moon deck too. We're feeling vicious today, y'all. Okie Dokie is probably there as well. I don't think it's falling in the mid category. There's a lot of bad decks this week. You caught me on a meanie day. I'm gonna put Dragapult Charizard is kind of good. It's just not as good as the other Dragapult decks, in my opinion. Maybe I can put it up one more. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it at kind of good. I just don't think it's as good as the rest. Charizard, Pidgeot, kind of mid. I'd rather just be playing other Dragapult. Like, if you can't play Dragapult, it's not as worthwhile. Wallstall, I think, ends up being kind of bad with the amount of Rotom in this format. Archaladon Double. I think that it's mid. Archaladon Zork, probably mid. Poison Archaladon is kind of good. Archaladon is one of those interesting decks in our format where it's kind of taken a little bit of a back seat. I think it's just there's other decks that are like slightly better. It's like, hey, I know my place. I'm not the #1 guy at work, but I'm going to step back and chill out. Terrabox, I think I'm going to put towards really good right now. I think it seems like it's well positioned and getting more and more well positioned. Hydreigon, I'm probably going to put at mid. I think it's not fantastic, but the lack of Shaman in the format's kind of cool. Terapagos Bufalon is probably going to be kind of good this week. It's fallen off though, y'all. I think it's struggling a little bit in the format. Future Box is going to be a mid deck. Yeah, I think it definitely falls in the mid category. Raging Bolt Belly Bolts is going to be kind of bad. Raging Bolts Noctowl is probably going to be really good. So a lot of these really good decks are going to be within the top tiers of the metagame. Like, if you have, like, I have a box, I'll show y'all. I have these Omni Hives from Ultimate Guard, and I'm not trying to product place or anything, but this is like where I store like my top 10 decks. So if I'm going to like a League Cup and I'm tossing this in the trunk of my car, that would have the top 10 decks. So the decks in the best and the really good are probably going to make up majority of that. And a deck like Dango, I might have the cards for the Dango to Dunsparce and the Dragapult behind there. So if we look at like the decks that are around, one Gardevoir, one Dragapult, one Dango, we're only at, then there's like 1, 2, 3. Still could add 4 more decks there and still fill up the box, is the way that I'd be kind of thinking about it. Festival lead. I think with Joltik on its way up, Terrabox decks there, I think it becomes kind of bad. Dragapult Iron Thorns probably ends up being kind of mid, not as good as the other Dragapult variants. Feraligatr, I think, is going to be another mid deck. A lot of those early Champions League successful decks not really sticking to the metagame. The metagame's changed a lot more outside of Asia. Enzork is actually becoming a very well-positioned deck. I'm going to put it at, like, I feel like Enzork's on the way up this week. So I'm going to put it at really good this week. I don't think it's really good across the board. I just think it's really well positioned right now with Darmanitan sniping a lot of the big Pokemon with Gardevoir. Gardevoir being up there has a big thing to do with it. It's okay against Dragapult. Otherwise, I'm not a huge fan of Enzork, but if you haven't like picked them up, it's probably worthwhile cards to have picked up. United Wings is going to be kind of bad for the same thing as Festival Lead. I think there's too many things that are just going to do snipey stuff. Roaring Moon to Dunsparce. I think this deck's kind of good, to be honest. It's not the best deck in format, but it is kind of good. That's the Baby Moon, Big Moon, and the Dunsparce deck that's been popping up. Straight up Belly Bolt, like Iono's Belly Bolt Voltorb. Probably going to put it at kind of bad. I don't think it's necessarily seeing any kind of success. Hydrapple, I'm going to put at, I don't know if it's like really bad. I think like you're going to lose a Gardevoir and you're going to lose a Dragapult. Yeah, it's going to be really bad there. Charizard Noctowl still struggles a lot with the decks, so it's going to be kind of more mid category right now. Frostlass Monkey Dories moving its way up to the kind of good tier. I think it's getting better and better positions. Probably want to use it before next format comes out because there's a lot of other decks that are probably going to start countering Frostlass. Hopzation I don't think is very great right now. It's probably like more mid than anything else. It's just not holding up to the metagame. Oh, there's Goldango Scizor. I think Dango Scizor is like a little bit less than the other Dango lists. So I'm going to put it at kind of good. We're going to be mean to that one. Great Tusk, I think, falls under kind of bad. I just don't think it's popped up. And if there was anything more that kept it mid, it'd probably pop up a little bit more. And then Eevee Box, I think, falls under... I think I'm going to put it at really good this week. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... and then maybe you have another Dragapult and another Dango builds, that's exactly where I'd probably put our top 10, give or take, in the metagame. So this is what we got going on for our tier list. I don't think anything's like outrageous. Like if you could have expected Gardevoir and Dragapult to be up at the top, that's cool. The big riser is going to be Enzorix and Eevee Box. New additions with Joltik Box, Roaring Moon to Dunsparce, Frostlass be moving up. There's definitely some decks that have some wings on them. Any of like the mid decks are just probably like mid decks and below are probably not really worth running unless they're in a specialized metagame. Like I could see Great Tusk being the best call for your challenge depending on the other decks that are played, but the kind of bad decks are like they do have some severe struggles in the metagame. But that doesn't mean that you can't try. Doesn't mean that I don't want to hear about your list. Doesn't mean that I don't want to argue in the comments. Let me know. I'm always an open book. And I hope that you all enjoyed watching this. I know we've been focusing on Destined Rivals content, but for these tier lists and typically for the best decks of the week, I'm going to be posting those up on the Shuffle Squad in our current format. Then we're going to be seeing how the rest goes. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. As always, much love, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes.
Tabi no hajimari wa tsune ni michi e no ippo de aru. Sore wa yami e to tsuzuku. 初めの一歩を踏み出すには勇気がいる。そして旅の終わりには旅を始めた時の自分とは別人になっているかもしれない。旅に出よう。 物語の次の章がお主を待っている。将軍の道を歩め。侍の箱とともに。アルティメットガードが送る冒険の第一章。刀将軍の道、近日発売。
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.